So, that's a very exciting horse in all three paces. And also, you can see as a stallion, he actually covered this morning as well. So I'm not surprised he's quite relaxed. Okay, just bring him up to the bit. And again, one of the most important factors in training the young horse is these breaks. These just walking, letting it have a long rein, and then up to the bit again, and then another break. So now we put a little bit more power into the trot. So perhaps a training session for a horse of this age would maybe last 25 minutes, and that would be a maximum workout. Walk again. He's showing off. That's it. So, of course, one thing that Suzanne is particularly good at is putting elevation into the trot. Now, it doesn't really matter for those of you that don't have a horse that trots like this. It might be a bit upsetting, but this horse in the end will trot absolutely enormous, because as he learns elevation, that is when a horse starts to become attractive and starts to become beautiful, even if it's an ugly horse. Once a horse starts to learn suspension, you start to look at it. He still needs to be a little bit more forward, Suzanne, a little bit more working pace, come forward a bit more. So again, you can see there, he's still not quite sure on the regularity how much height or suspension he needs, and that is because he's learning it, and also because he's not strong enough yet as a young horse. Hello? Okay, change the rein. That's it, a little bit more forward. A couple of diagonals, just medium trot, just to open him up a little bit more. That's it, and back across on the next diagonal. And again, you can see how easy all this horse does. When she closes her leg on the horse, you can see he just comes forward. And that's very important. If you look at how Suzanne rides with her legs, they're very soft and loose. You don't want to squeeze the horse. But if you ride a horse with a tight leg, it very quickly becomes dead to your leg. That's it, a little bit more, a little bit more. Trot, trot, that's better. You can see the horse starting to become regular. Good, good. And a transition, a half halt, loose legs, on with the legs, and forward again. Up, back, down. Okay, just keep trotting. Large around the score. And I think it's a wonderful example of this horse's temperament as well, how he can come in here as a young horse and he hasn't looked at anything. Famous last words, but he obviously has seen the world, he's travelled. But people often say to me, well, you've got big, long, strong legs, of course you can get a lazy horse going. It's not how strong you are, it's how you use your legs. And you have to ride with your legs a little bit, it sounds a little bit Irish how I explain it now, but you ride with your legs a little bit off the horse, and then when you want a reaction, you put them on the horse. But when the horse is in basic training, in walk, trot and canter, he has to learn to go for himself. So once the horse is trotting, your leg is loose, and then Suzanne, if you touch him with your legs, just show a little bit of a touch with your leg, you get that reaction there, you see, where the horse just starts to listen, he starts to respect the aids. And they're two separate aids. The reins just give the half halt, and then the leg comes on and you start to make the trot. So again, just bring him back a little bit, bring him back, and then forward, touch him with your leg, release the rein, and there you see the horse moves immediately in front of her leg. And that's not, because he made a mistake there, those are good mistakes. That is a horse offering to go forward, not a horse not reacting. So if he canters, then that's fine. You just pat the horse and you let it come back and you correct it. And it is better to always think in your training of corrections and not punishment. Especially with a horse like this that is offering so much, it has to come from the correction. Okay, if you could just canter again. Okay. Now again, let's just bring the neck a little higher now, Suzanne, a little bit more into the position that you would expect to see the horse for a test. There you are, immediately, just by carrying her hand, sitting down a little bit, you can see straight away she's able to bring the pole to the highest point. And there you almost have a horse that looks like a Grand Prix horse here now. His pole is the highest point, he's engaged with the hind leg, and then on the circle just change him a little bit and stretch the neck. You can see there Suzanne too. It's this different hand position. You take a slightly wider lower hand and the neck goes down through the reins. There you are, still with no contact. Good. And like this it enables the horse to actually use the bit to soften. You can see his mouth now starting to soften, and then bring him up to the bit again. That's good. Lovely. Just change the rein on the diagonal. That's it, and just a transition through walk. Very clever. And canter left again. And walk again. Good. And canter. Now that is because this horse has already learned to change. And again, that was not him being bad. He was offering what he thought was right. And you can see, if you have a horse with a canter like that, there are no fast rules about you should wait till the horse is doing counter-canter. Some people do counter-canter for so long, they can never get the changes after that. You should mix the training up a little bit. You do counter-canter and you do changes. Well, if you have a horse that canters like this, in this balance, then why shouldn't you do a change? As long as he's confident and relaxed, and when he makes a mistake, he doesn't get overcorrected. It's just playing, which you can see is how Suzanne has taught him to do his first flying change. And I think it's quite important if you have a young horse, and it is something that it's good at, that you let it do it. It's good for his brain. Come across the diagonal, and again, another simple change through walk. But obviously the flying change comes from a horse learning to do walk to canters. Because in a walk to canter, that is when you give it the aid for the flying change. Okay, and then come across, and let's just see if you can do a change. You can see the horse is totally relaxed about it. Good. Very good. Very good. You can see no fuss, no bother. And because the horse has learned it in this way, eventually in a year's time, perhaps when you start to say, right now we're going to start to do tempi changes, the horse is going to be rideable. You couldn't now suddenly start doing tempi changes because, very good. Makes you want to cry. You couldn't start, as I say, you don't need at the moment to be very, get hold of this horse and say, now you're going to do this, now you're going to do that. Because the horse is wanting to do it. If you let its mind stay relaxed, which is how his way of going is at the moment, as I say, when you know the horse is physically strong enough, mentally he's obviously prepared, but still physically when you look at him, he still has making up to do. He's still got to get a bit stronger behind the saddle. He has a very beautiful, well-made front, but his strength has still got to come more behind. And now just a transition to trot again, and let's see after the canter work if the trot strides are a little bit more relaxed. That's it, just let the neck come forward. There you are. Now you can see him starting to come into this regular trot. It's got rhythm. It's still got a nice little bit of lift to it, but this time, after he's cantered, he's now becoming soft. And that's a very important part of training, softness. And when you go abroad, if you see horses that win, whether they're at the lower levels or the higher levels, they're the horses that look as if they go for themselves. They are not the horses that look like they're being driven or being held together. They're the ones that are light off the legs, soft in the rein, and look easy. And just change the rein. Very good. And now change the neck position, Suzanne, and now stretch the neck again. So this is what training is about. Training is about stretching, collecting, bending, and straightening. Now, just because we're lucky enough to have had this horse here tonight, obviously doesn't mean that every horse is this easy if you just ride it like this. This is obviously a talented horse, as well as being well